Okay, Jenny, you all right for me to go? Excellent. Right. Well, welcome everybody to Bridging the Divide here with IWill Scotland. It's fantastic to see so many of you join us on day 2 of IWill Week. So, yeah, welcome and thank you very much for coming along and joining us. Just a little bit of housekeeping first. So, my name's Chris. I'm one of the managers here at YouthLink Scotland. I lead on the Action on Prejudice project. For those that don't know, we've got Jenny Snell, who works at YouthLink Scotland as well, delivering our IWill Week project, and she will do our conversation later on. And then we have our speakers from School Scotland. We have Jenna Shabbat and we have Aisha and Maya, who will be speaking as our young people later today. So, enjoy. Just as a little bit kind of a reminder, I'm sure we're all experts by now with all of COVID and everything else, but can I ask all the participants that aren't speaking to keep yourselves on mute, and you can switch off your videos so that it just allows the speaker view element of the video recording to kind of really kind of work and engage. If you do have any questions throughout the session, don't be afraid. Drop them in the chat, and you can either direct them privately to ourselves if there's some technical support that's needed, but if there's some general questions, don't hesitate to use the chat. It's all there as a kind of give and take and to and fro here throughout this session. And just as a reminder, we're recording the session, so this will be so another reason to turn your video off if you don't want to be recorded. Just to let everybody know. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the purpose of the webinar today, as I'm sure you've all seen, is to do as says on the screen. So we're looking at answering the question, what is the IWill movement here in Scotland? We're looking to share the volunteering and youth social action experiences from young people of Black people and ethnic minority communities, outlining the barriers and challenges that face young people from Black and ethnic minority communities to volunteering and taking part in social action across our communities here in Scotland. And we're looking at exploring the solutions to make your volunteering social action opportunities more inclusive for all young people, and therefore inspiring you to join the movement and support more young people from Black and ethnic minority communities to take positive action, take action and making a difference and influencing change across Scotland. So as I said, we've got Aisha and Maya here today to kind of give their experiences through School Scotland, and I welcome all of you from School Scotland and our young speakers today. I'm delighted you could be here, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say and your experiences. And at this point, I will hand over to my colleague Jenny, who will give you a bit more information about IWill.
Thanks so much, Chris. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'll just echo Chris's kind of thanks, and also welcome to our speakers from School Scotland too. I'm just going to speak for the first kind of 5 minutes. Hopefully I'll try and keep it to time, about what IWill in Scotland is, in case anybody's not aware, and our kind of new strategic plan, and why we are kind of shining a spotlight, I suppose, on making sure that our volunteering and youth social action opportunities in Scotland are inclusive to all young people. So as a bit of a background, we started the campaign at a UK level in 2013. So that was kind of initiated by His Royal Highness Prince Charles, and then Step Up to Serve, a charity at UK-wide level, took on the kind of secretariat role for that. And the aim was to increase the opportunities for young people across the UK to take part in social action and volunteering. And then in 2015 is when IWill kind of came to Scotland. So YouthLink Scotland, Young Scot and Education Scotland became the strategic leads for the kind of campaign in a Scottish context, and started to drive it forward for local communities and youth work kind of organisations across the country. And in 2016, we set up a Scottish IWill advisory group, which is made up of cross-sector kind of leaders from across the country. So the IWill movement is a cross-sector kind of approach. So we work with formal education providers, health and social care, businesses, voluntary sector organisations, youth work organisations, environmental organisations, and I always miss one, but yeah, essentially we work across the whole of society to try and create a real kind of culture shift for young people in Scotland. So the Scottish IWill Advisory Group was set up to do that, and is made up of leaders from across the sector, and we really value the partnerships that come with that. And then to kind of further the resource and capacity in 2019, my post was created, so that was the first full-time National Development Officer post in Scotland for IWill, so that's obviously kind of really boosted what we can do in Scotland and kind of drive the campaign forward. Another thing that just to mention as well is that we have about 30 IWill ambassadors in Scotland. There's over 200 across the UK, and those young people are recruited on a yearly basis for all their kind of dedication and commitment to youth social action and volunteering. And when we're speaking about youth social action, we're speaking about any sort of activity that makes a difference to local communities, wider society, or the environment. So it can cover anything from formal volunteering to campaigning, mentoring, befriending, fundraising, right the way through to activism. So it's really broad, and it kind of covers any activity that young people take within their own free time to make a difference to others. And on the IWill Ambassadors, they have been at the forefront of shaping our new strategic plan, which I mentioned a bit earlier on. So we're in a bit of an evolution stage of IWill at the moment. The charity Step Up to Serve at a UK level are closing their doors at the end of 2020, and the campaign is moving into a movement. So it's going to kind of develop into a new phase beyond 2020. So we're really excited in Scotland to have our first ever strategic plan for Scotland that launched today. There obviously has been strategic plans for a UK-wide level, but we've never had it for a Scottish level before. So this is really a really exciting kind of change of direction for us, and the IWill Ambassadors were at the heart of shaping this. So it all came from them in collaboration with the Scottish IWill Advisory Group. And just to kind of outline it really briefly, there's some tweets, and we can also share it in the chat so that you can have a kind of read a bit further. But our kind of new vision for IWill in Scotland is a culture where participation in youth social action and volunteering is inclusive and accessible for all young people, and a culture where young people, regardless of any personal situations or backgrounds, are able to take action, make a difference, and influence change. And you can see our mission underneath that is to kind of stick with that cross-sector approach that we've been using up until the moment, and really kind of valuing and shouting and championing the power of youth. The values at the bottom as well were shaped by the IWill Ambassadors. So we've got inclusive, bold, collaborative, and youth-led. So those are the kind of 4 values that are underpinning all of our work that we're going to be doing going forward. And these are our 3 new outcomes that we will be working to from 2021 to 2026. So we want to really see an increase in the number of young people across Scotland who are able to take action and make a difference through high quality volunteering and social action opportunities. So as well as looking at the number of young people who are taking part, we also want to make sure that the opportunities that they're involved in are of high quality and embody the kind of 5 principles of youth social action that we have through the IWill campaign. And our second outcome, which is really relevant to our session tonight, is about an increase in the number of young people from underrepresented groups, particularly those from low income and ethnic minority backgrounds who are making a difference through high quality volunteering and social action across Scotland. So we know from the sort of previous research that's been done through the National Youth Social Action Survey from 2015 right the way through to this year, and also the Scottish Household Survey and the Young People in Scotland Survey, that there is still a gap present for young people from low income backgrounds and young people from ethnic minority backgrounds, that they're not able to access the opportunities that white more affluent young people are able to access in terms of volunteering and social action. So we want to see that gap basically disappear. So it has been narrowing over the past few years. There has been a slight kind of narrowing of that gap, but there is still a gap. So we do need to kind of continue to work on that going forward. So that is one of our outcomes that we will be focusing on. And then the third outcome is an increase in the number of organisations demonstrating their commitment to the power of youth. So the first two are about an increase in young people, and the third one is an increase in organisations. So we want to really see a culture shift across the whole of Scotland that recognises and values youth volunteering and youth social action for all young people. And it aligns really nicely with the new Volunteering for All framework that Scottish Government has brought out, the youth VIP recommendations that Young Scotland Project Scotland worked on in 2018, and also some of the other kind of policy drivers like the incorporation of the UNCRC, United Nations Convention of the Rights of the Child, I'm going to try and not use jargon as well, into Scots law. So one of the aspects that we have developed as part of our new strategic plan is our Power of Youth Charter. So you can see the Power of Youth Charter there just now. And this is what our kind of call to action is for organisations to sign up to. So we're asking organisations to really think about their commitment to young people and volunteering and social action. And you can see embedded throughout that charter that we are really kind of prioritising young people from low income and ethnic minority backgrounds and getting access to those volunteering and youth social action roles. So yeah, I'll just leave that kind of Power of Youth Charter with you to think about, and that's the kind of call to action, is to go away and think about how you could prioritise empowering young people, open up your decision-making structures, work in partnership, evidence the benefits of youth social action, and recognise and celebrate young people's impact. I am going to stop there. And I'll stop sharing my screen as well. And I'm going to pass over to Jennifer from Score Scotland, who's going to introduce the young people, and they're going to give a little bit of their experience of volunteering and social action. So yeah, Jennifer, over to you.
Thank you very much. Hello everyone, my name's Jennifer. I'm from Score Scotland, so Strengthening Communities for Race Equality Scotland. We are based in the Wester Hailes area of Edinburgh, which is the southwest. And today I'm lucky enough to have Mayar and Aisha joining us on the call, and they're just going to speak about their experiences of volunteering before COVID and then during the COVID pandemic. And maybe Mayar, you would like to start?
Yeah, my name is Mayar, and I'm going to talk to you about my experiences volunteering. So I started off volunteering at Oxfam before COVID-19 came around, and I spent my time, maybe I went like about once a week every Saturday. Sometimes I'd go twice a week, and I'd mostly work on the till or behind behind the scenes, cleaning up or getting clothes sorted and stuff like that. And that was a good experience because I got to interact with loads of different people, and you'd meet new people every day, and yeah, it was a really good experience. But unfortunately, when COVID-19 came around, we couldn't carry that on because all the shops closed down and stuff. So we had to start finding other ways to do our volunteering and stuff like that. But we did manage to find a lot of good things to do, and it gave us the opportunity to talk about issues that mattered to us. So, for example, at one point we made information leaflets about the Black Lives Matter movement, and we got to talk about that. And I personally directed my one towards the Arab community and racism in the Arab community, because that's my personal ethnic background, and I thought I could use that for the better. And we also got to do, when COVID started, we made leaflets informing people about COVID-19 and how to stay safe and stuff like that. And I also did one where I translated it into Arabic for people who may not be able to understand English and who may not understand all the stuff that's being thrown at them on the news and from the government. So I tried to do my part, and and I did a leaflet in Arabic, and we shared that on social media to get that to as many people as possible. And yeah, we did that for a good few months, and yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Mayar. Aisha, if you'd like to speak about your experience as well.
Well, I was volunteering at Score Scotland, and I was working at the swap shop and sometimes for the younger youth club group with the younger children helping out. And it was really fun because I got to spend time with my friends as well. But when COVID came around, we had to do stuff on Zoom instead, like make posters and for like to raise awareness of COVID, since people in minorities were actually more at risk. And we did quite some fun stuff like helping. We actually taught I actually taught a lesson, like a French lesson, to some of the younger kids in the younger youth club, which was quite good. So, yeah.
That's great. Honestly, these guys were brilliant during lockdown. I think they kept giving us motivation to keep going. So thank you so much for sharing your experiences. Jenny, should I move on to my presentation? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that would be fab. Thanks, Jennifer.
Okie dokie. I'll go to screen share. There we go. Okay, yeah, so I've got a short presentation. So as I mentioned, I'm from a charity. We are a race equalities charity. We work with a variety of different communities in the southwest of Edinburgh, but our actual physical office is based in Wester Hailes. So Wester Hailes is quite an economically challenged area of Edinburgh. There's quite high crime levels and antisocial behaviour. And that's really why Score Scotland came into existence. There's quite a few refugee families and asylum seeking families that are housed in the area. And we felt there was a real need for support for the local communities. Oh, okay, so who are we? We work with a variety of different individuals, and we have a variety of different projects. So we have the Green Futures Project, which is a climate change project funded by the Scottish Government. And we are regularly taking ladies out and men out and children on cycle rides. And that's headed up by my colleague Jolly. We also run a community fridge. So during lockdown, that kind of changed in nature. So we began it maybe 2 months before lockdown, and individuals from the community could stop by and they could pick up produce that was due to be sent to the landfill. So supermarkets, Asda, Waitrose, Sainsbury's would deliver their surplus food to us. And then during the week, people could drop in and pick up what they needed for free. But unfortunately, when COVID came, we had to rethink that. So it became a delivery service. We also try to do as much community engagement as we can. So we have a community outreach worker. So we support people in consultations, anything to do with the local community and the local government and the council, so that they can have a voice and are represented. And we also have the Wester Hailes Connects project. So this was really beneficial during lockdown. We actually have a worker who is able to use her digital skills to get families, you know, online to communicate with schools about homework. Because as you'll know, when lockdown came, you needed passwords to log in. And oftentimes those passwords can be forgotten. So in terms of accessing your home learning, it was really important that we had a worker who could help with that. And my role, I am the Youth and Children's Development Officer, and my role is to manage Noughts and Crosses Children's and Youth Club. So these clubs have been running for over 12 years in Wester Hailes. Aisha, you might recognise yourself in one of these pictures. So we have a youth club for older children. So that is 11 to 16-year-olds, and that runs Saturdays. And we have a children's club, which is on Friday afternoons, and that is for 7 to 10-year-olds. Our work is supported by BBC Children in Need and the City of Edinburgh Council. And we really try to offer as many new experiences as possible. And our outcomes are to reduce isolation. So we encourage families to get to know new families. I mentioned earlier, we may have refugee and asylum seeking families who come in contact with us. So we're really trying to build up people's social networks. And for the young people who are maybe feeling quite isolated at school, they may face racism, discrimination. They can come to the clubs. It's a safe space. It's welcoming to everyone, and they can make new friendships and new relationships. We're also really passionate about promoting physical activity and any activity for the well-being of the young people. So we also try to build confidence and develop new skills through our sessions. Okay, so the question is, so we have youth clubs, but why do we want to do volunteering? And I must say, to be honest, the volunteering has actually been really organic. It's been something that the young people have really highlighted to us, that when we have an event happening, so we're based in an art centre, if there's something taking place like a science fair, or perhaps there is a litter pick, the young people have said, you know, we really want to get involved and we want to help out. So that's how it began initially. And we've had some nice different variety of experiences. So we have the Exploreathon that takes place every year. It's an outreach science project that happens all over Scotland, or it might actually be UK wide. And we do it in partnership with Napier University, Heriot Watt University, and Whale Arts Centre. And last year, the young people played a key role. They were able to work with researchers and scientists and find out kind of what their area of expertise was. So we had coding, we had virtual reality, we had place planning. And the young people were able to spend time with these professionals, learn about their speciality, and then able to share that knowledge with members of the public. So when members of the public would come to the event, the young people in the youth club were able to, you know, display some of the knowledge that they'd gained from the researchers. And you can see they're having lunch together. It was lunchtime break. And it's just a really lovely opportunity for bonding with other young people and learning new skills and having fun on the way. This year, I'm always confused about which year I'm in because lockdown has taken so much of my year. But last year we got in touch with the Duke of Edinburgh Award, and we'd said, you know, this is something we've never done before. And the Duke of Edinburgh Award, when I thought about it, for me, it always felt as something quite, I don't want to say posh, but I remember at school, I didn't go for it. I remember thinking, oh, it's not really for me. It's for other young people. And then when I'd see the group leaders, I wouldn't really see anyone that represented me or my family. So I didn't really have a point of reference. So I contacted the Duke of Edinburgh Award and I said, I'd love to find out more. And they were so unbelievably helpful. They are really passionate about getting as many young people who maybe traditionally have not gone for the Duke of Edinburgh Award to get involved. So we were assigned a worker, and he would come out to us, which was really nice as well. And he would meet with the young people and kind of outline, break it all down about what was needed. So if you've done the Duke of Edinburgh Award, or if you're doing it with your youth club, you'll know there's 3 main areas. So there's the skills development, there's the physical, and then there's the volunteering. So we were really excited to start the volunteering, and the plan was to do it with our community fridge. So that food that was getting delivered from supermarkets, we would ask the young people to support staff members to distribute that to local community members. So that was a great plan. That was one of the options. The other option was the young people were going to be helping in our children's club. So they were going to bring new skills and games and activities. And then the third option was with the art club. So it was all looking good. And then COVID came, of course. So we moved our service after 2 weeks. We moved online onto Zoom, and we spoke to the young people, and they were quite keen to get involved. And that's when we began. Each week we would have a different task. Mayar, you're going to recognize this. Mayar was brilliant. He created this poster for us, 3 ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19. So we found quite quickly that a lot of the communities that we work with didn't have access to the same information due to language barriers. A lot of people didn't really understand what the restrictions, what lockdown, what it really meant, and also the implications as Black and minority ethnic people. We are more susceptible to develop, to becoming ill from COVID. So Mayar created this poster just really as an information sharing. So we were able to put it on our social media. And it was just really about thinking creatively about how we could use the skills of the young people and their ideas themselves, what they would like to share with the local community. So Mayar mentioned about Black Lives Matters. So as you'll all be aware, during the lockdown period, Black Lives Matter really took on a lot of impetus because of the killing of George Floyd that we're all, I'm sure, aware of. And the young people were really keen to find out more about Black Lives Matters and also to share their learning with others. And I think it was really important for us to look at a topic which is current and look at issues and questions that young people have, but often what you see in the news is not really targeted towards young people. Okay, so that's really what we did during the lockdown period and how we were able to kind of change our way of working. So in terms of learning for other organizations or youth work services, I've just put some questions in that I think are quite important for reflection about your work with young Black and minority ethnic people. So the first one is, are your activities inclusive? So for example, we're really keen to do our expedition for the Duke of Edinburgh Award. We've done everything else. We had our expedition training planned. It got cancelled last minute because of COVID restrictions. But how can we include everybody in the overnight expedition? Because we have some young women who won't be allowed to sleep overnight. So what can we do? How can we work with Duke of Edinburgh Award to ensure that we're able to provide something where everyone can take part and not only children from a certain background or from a certain culture? So are you flexible in how you plan your activities? Another question is, how can you tap into the unique backgrounds of the young people? So I think Mayar's poster is like a perfect example that Mayar was able to use his culture and heritage, and he was able to kind of display that in a really useful way. So you can definitely shine a light on all those positives of the young people that you work with, and they'll be more than happy to share their unique culture and background. And I've put here, are you considering the basics? So for example, in one of the images that you would have seen, the young people were having lunch together. So for us, we'll always make sure that the lunches we provide are vegetarian or they're halal, so that everyone's included. You know, we've had sometimes facilitators come out to our sessions and they hand out Haribo at the end of the session, and maybe only like 50% of the young people can eat them because of the pork gelatin. So I think just really stripping it back to the basics and thinking, okay, what can we do just to make sure we include everyone? And maybe at the beginning, some of the young people were not so keen to always have vegetarian meals, but now it's just a habit. They understand that that's what we do. We want everyone to be healthy, and it's just about new ways of learning together. I've also included something which I think is probably one of the most important things. Do BME young people see themselves represented in your organization? So in terms of the youth workers that you have, in terms of the facilitators that you invite to sessions, in terms of the managers of their services, do they actually see themselves in your organization? And I think that probably goes back to when I remember about being a teenager and thinking, will I do Duke of Edinburgh Award? I didn't really see anyone that represented me. So I just thought automatically, well, it's not for me. So I think the more that your service can represent and be diverse and show different different backgrounds, I think is just a positive and a plus. And finally, how open is your service about discussing issues of racism and discrimination? So for example, you may really want to reach out to as many Black and minority ethnic young people as possible, invite them to your service. But if there's an issue that occurs, are you ready to handle that? Do you know how to confidently deal with these issues that can't be just swept under the rug? They have to be challenged and discussed. And how confident do you feel? If you don't feel very confident in talking about issues of racism and discrimination, then there's lots of organizations. For example, our organization, we would be more than happy to link up, and maybe you can invite us. We'll come and do a session with the young people, with your staff. We can talk about these different issues just to get people a bit more comfortable. So yeah, so that is my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. No questions.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Has anybody got any questions at the moment that they would like to ask Jennifer or Aisha or Mayar? You can either pop them in the chat or kind of read them out loud. If not, I'll pass back over to Chris, who'll take us through the next bit.
No problem at all. Thank you so much, everybody. That was a fantastic presentation, and actually links in really, really well to the next element of our session, where we'll be now going into breakout rooms to go into small group discussions to kind of actually contemplate a lot of the topics that we've just covered and the conversations that we've just had. It's your place and your chance as teams to just have a bit of a soft conversation about what you could do next in your practice to provide more meaningful opportunities for young Blacks and ethnic minority young people to participate in all your opportunities that I'm sure you all have in your organizations. And some questions that that might help your discussion and frame a discussion is how we can create a welcoming environment online or in person, what actions we can take to break down barriers, as to name but a few, and we'll put those into the group chat once we go into our breakout rooms. If each group could pick a facilitator or a person that would just take some quick notes, if you wouldn't mind, and then that'll allow, when you come back, what we'll do is we'll feed back then as a team to just pull from each of the groups what your kind of thought process are, where you're at, where you're going towards, and just kind of help each other out, work together as a collective to make sure we're all on the same page in being that more inclusive, welcoming, safe space for our communities of Scotland and representing them. So without further ado, Jane, if you wouldn't mind breaking everybody out into our breakout groups. These will be for 15 minutes. Jenny, myself, and Jennifer will be jumping around the different groups. So if we pop in and pop out, don't be alarmed. We're just there to be of assistance, and we'll pull you back into the main group in 15 minutes time for the next session or the next element of the session. Okay. And everyone should have their breakout room invite now up there to click join. Brilliant, Jane. Thank you very much. Awesome. You've got breakout room control then, I can see. So you're on mute though.
Oh, I'm totally talking to you. Sorry. Yes.
That's all right. That's okay. I'm happy to jump into breakout room 1 and I'll just, so we're coming back at 20 past. Is that the plan?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Okay. I'll see you in a bit.
Bye.
give it a couple of seconds to make sure everybody gets back into the room. Okay. Sorry, Liz, we got cut off at the end of your little conversation there. I'm sure we'll get a chance to maybe come back to it. But thank you. Certainly from Room One's perspective, that was a fantastic little discussion. It gives an opportunity now to just kind of reflect on what everybody said. And if I could just ask each room to prepare just two of the kind of thoughts that kind of came out of their discussions, and we'll go in reverse order. So room 5 first, please, or the first. Jane, what was the highest number for the rooms?
2.
2. Okay, room 2. Could you? That's brilliant. Room 2. Could you let us know who your spokesperson is and what the 2 takeaways that you kind of brought forward from your discussions were?
I don't know who was in room 1 or room 2.
Well, I was in room 1, so anyone that wasn't in the same room.
That's me. Good start, Jenny. That was amazing. This is really hard to pick 2 points. I don't actually know where to start, so I'm going to try and merge the points into 2 to be a wee bit cheeky. But I think one of the things that we highlighted was what Jennifer had said earlier in her presentation about if there's nobody within like a kind of an organisation or a volunteering role that young people can identify with or see themselves represented, that can be a real barrier. So some of the ways that we could overcome that are through like kind of taster sessions or group volunteering, so reaching out to groups rather than individuals. And also Mayar raised a really great point about previous connections. So his volunteering journey at Oxfam was because his mum had a previous connection there, so there was that already kind of safe space and connection. So tapping into those as well and reaching families and wider communities is a really good way to do that. And then the second point, we spoke about it being youth-led, so about young people being at the heart of the decision making, and that if the young people are the ones that are making the decision and creating the content and creating the programs, and they're going to be more engaged, and it's going to be more kind of beneficial for both them and the organisation. And going forward, we need to avoid tokenism, so it can't just be for the sake of doing anything. It needs to be meaningful, and it needs to be kind of from the young people. It's not going to work as a top down. It needs to be kind of grassroots up. And we need to be mindful of the language that we're using as well, so making sure that our language isn't jargony, like I did earlier with UNCRC. So avoiding that sort of stuff to make sure that our language is inclusive and people can understand what we're saying, because we get into the habit of using jargon on a daily basis in our jobs that we just assume people understand. And that was more than 2 points, but that was a bit cheeky.
That's all right. It's your session. So thanks so much, Jenny, for feeding back for room 2 there. Who from room 1 that was in the same room as me would like to come forward and give a bit of an update on what we discussed? Just unmute yourself if you want to. Otherwise, I'm happy to give an update.
I can give it a bash if.
Go for it. Yeah.
I'll do my best. So we talked about increasing inclusivity by encouraging camera on, so it really does feel like you're all in the same room together. Having clear instructions about how to have a background like yourself, Chris, to sort of maybe to get rid of anyone's worries about family members being included, and having a really clear code of conduct makes people feel a little bit more safe. And also representing quite a diverse staff team online as well. And if you don't have a completely diverse staff team available, then maybe you can involve other volunteers that would help to do so. And also getting away from the label of volunteering would actually help by kind of saying people, hey, you have actually a specific role in this, for example, like a youth activism group, or focusing more on a task in hand and being, do you want to be a leader in this, or do you want to be a peer educator in this, might be more helpful and make people actually engage a little bit more. And always making things, always making a list of what the young people are going to get from it, and that reflects on what the other group were saying about tokenism, making sure that that actually has a meaningful impact, rather than just being like, hey, look, we include young people, it's great, but we don't actually do anything, you know, further from that than reaping the benefits of showing everyone that you have young people on board. So yeah, I think that was everything, unless someone wants to jump in there and say something I've missed.
No, I think you covered everything for the most part. The interesting thing was a couple of national organisations have changed their titles from head of volunteering to head of volunteering and social action, and I think the emphasis on the words that we use, and then the responsibility that then or the inference of that word putting responsibility on an individual was a really interesting discussion that certainly Room 1 had. So but thank you both rooms, both groups. That they certainly sound like dynamic discussions, but more importantly, sounds like we were saying the same thing, which is a really good starting point when we're looking at collective action and social change, particularly on a subject matter as important as this and as important as this. And I hope that it gives everybody food for thought about different things that each of us can do within our own organizations, whether you're an existing volunteer or the CEO of your organization, to take forward within your team or within your management structures, to be able to sort of say, I went on this training session and this workshop session, we had a really good dynamic discussion about X, and this is what I'd like to think about moving forward. With that, I'd just like to say a massive thank you for everybody that has joined us throughout the session today. For me, it's been really insightful, definitely food for thought in context with a lot of the project that I work with, and I'm sure the same for Jenny as well. I'd love to thank School Scotland and our young speakers today, whether it's Jennifer or Aisha or Mayar. Thank you so much for coming and giving your experiences of volunteering, both before COVID and subsequently during COVID, and how you continue to be active participants and calling for that social change in your different areas. I've no doubt that this is being replicated across Scotland, but it's always great to get specific examples from young people. So thank you so much. It is IWill Week all week. So I would urge everybody to check out social media. Do have a look at the IWill Week page. There's going to be some information dropped into the chat. It's already there. Fantastic. And do have a look at the Twitter handle that we've got, which is IWill Scotland, as well as our Instagram handle, which will also be posted on there, which is IWill Scotland as well. Do get engaged. There's lots of other sessions still to come that we'd love to see all your friendly faces at, and hearing the conversations, and keep this narrative going. There's lots of stuff coming out of YouthLink Scotland as an organisation within the youth work sector. It is Scotland specific because that's our agency, but we are still open to our UK national colleagues to come in and be part of the conversation and learn from one another, because we can absolutely do this. So from us here at YouthLink Scotland, thank you so much for being part of this, and have a great evening, and we'll see you very, very soon.